Christian Eriksen involved in both goals, of course, for better and for worse, because it was a great goal he scored, but then makes the mistake that lets Twente in. He said post-match, they looked like they wanted it more. That can't be right. And we've seen this before at Old Trafford. We've seen it a bit in the Premier League, but in European competition, there's something about it in European competition that it's more stark. And I don't know why, but we've seen it with Galatasaray and FC Copenhagen in the Champions League last time round. And we see it when they don't put away some of their chances, they don't make their superiority count, and yes, they may be a goal to the good, and suddenly the opposition get a bit of a sniff. And whether they score or they have a chance or something, their tails go right up and they go, oh, hang on a minute, it isn't Old Trafford like it used to be. We've maybe just been a bit starry-eyed, we've maybe been playing the occasion or whatever, you reckon the names of, you're looking at the badge of the opposition and you suddenly go, oh bloody hell, we can have a go here. And they do. And they get something out of the game. And that's the thing. I think that, Eriksen, he might just be talking, I'm sure he's just talking about this game, but often, as I say, to me it sticks out more in European competition. The opposition go away thinking, we could have got something out of it, or bloody hell, that was fun, can we play another 20 minutes?
Yeah. I mean,
I know Man United finished the stronger of the two, but still, you get the point, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, they dug themselves a massive hole by that point, hadn't they? And if they'd have scored, it wouldn't have been through an act of extraordinary individual quality in that closing stage. I mean, I do think we can't confuse a lack of confidence with a lack of desire. I think that's saying stuff about the players that's not really fair. But there isn't that ring about Manchester United anymore once you get into it. And you're right, like we were saying, that sort of Twente were almost invited into the game by United's inability to make the most of a dominant position. And, because they don't feel like a team that really dominates anymore. Now, I know they're in this sort of reconstruction phase still, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but their inability to recover from mistakes is a bit of an issue, isn't it? I mean, that is a confidence thing. I mean, I tend to think that the goal that they conceded, you can see the way they're trying to play, and it's just one of those things. But they didn't seem to take it as one of those things. The confidence really sort of sapped out of them. And the chances they had at the end were really the result of desperation football rather than anything else. It was just chucking it all up there. And you could see that the thing that made me think about the desperation edge of it is like there are a few opportunities for Twente on the break, which if they'd have had a little bit quality, that they could have made more of, and they could have fashioned themselves a winner, and they didn't quite play the right final ball after United have left themselves really exposed. I mean, I think one of them was really interesting because you saw Garnacho, who'd obviously come on, make a great recovery run to cut out a diagonal ball. And I think if there's something to be encouraged by, actually, it's that Garnacho, who's obviously one of United's best players now, he is starting to realise what it takes to not just be a good player, but a truly great player. Because I've been a little bit critical of him in the past, because I felt that when he first came into the United team, he had lots of eye-catching moments, but he didn't work hard enough off the ball. Yeah. Whereas now we're seeing a definite switch there. And if you're looking for encouragement from a United perspective, I think that was definitely a moment that provided it, even if it was in not ideal circumstances.
I agree. And I think I'm sure there's a lot of Manchester United fans thinking, come on, Alejandro, like we need you firing on all cylinders. And and they probably need him to mature, in a very short space of time,
faster than
2 or 3 years. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because of the situation. I mean, Ten Hag, they can't score. They're not scoring a lot of goals. And when he says against Crystal Palace, after the game, well, we ate Crystal Palace alive, and they draw 0-0. I understand English is second language, but I mean, come on, he knows what he's saying there. You look at the results that they've had this season, 0-0 with Palace. Okay, they beat Southampton 3-0, but Southampton are there for the taking, really.
Totally.
So there's that. They lose 3-0 to Liverpool, lose 2-1 to Brighton. Okay, they beat Fulham 1-0, but honestly, I was saying this after that game, and if we'd have done a pod at half time in that match, I was saying, this is it, lads. This is not going to get any better than this, as far as I'm concerned, under Ten Hag. I'm surprised he's still there. The only game they've scored goals in this season is the 7-0 against Barnsley, which seems like an absolute anomaly. Now, of course, Barnsley are not a Premier League side, so it's not hugely surprising that they hammered them. But you thought, okay, maybe a bit of confidence from that. Then they've got Palace and FC Twente, and you look at those games, and yes, you can draw it away to Palace. I get that. You can have a sloppy result in Europe, I can get that. It's exactly the same. From the first ball they kicked against Fulham this season, it's exactly the same. To me, hardly anything's changed, if at all. You don't want to talk someone into getting the sack, but I'd be surprised if Ten Hag's there much longer. You said this, Andy.
No, I agree.
Towards the end of last season, that the FA Cup win probably helped him, almost certainly helped him, because that's a stunning victory against Manchester City. But subsequently, we've heard the rumours that were his coaches were saying to him, no, Erik, you can't go toe-to-toe with Manchester City. And they managed to eventually convince him into doing a different plan, which worked, to be fair. But you thought that if the leadership come in and sack him too early, it reflects a bit bad on the leadership of the new bigwigs at the club, if you see what I mean. And you thought that in the first few months of the season, he may well come unstuck, unless he managed to turn it around, which clearly he's not going to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I don't know if, like, by saying it's a work in progress, we're slightly overrating it, because it's not really that much progress, is there?
And it's his third season, and you can see it by his first season was pretty good, wins the League Cup and finishes third, and everyone thought, here we go. Second season, not so good, but okay, won the FA Cup. It's going in the opposite direction to what they would hope and what it should do, really. Yeah,
it is. It's not quite Chelsea-esque, but it's the same sort of ballpark, isn't it? Really, maybe with a smaller volume of signings.
Although, having said that, I understand League Cup, FA Cup. If you were to follow that through, it would be the Premier League this season. But I'm telling you, Andy, that's not going to happen.
If you look at Chelsea and United fans, who both get a bad rap, they've been really patient.
I agree.
Certainly the stadium-going ones have been very, very patient with their teams over the last couple of seasons. But should the people who are running the club? That's the question, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that saved Ten Hag is there was no credible successor. Now, if they're a little bit further down the line, these things open up over time. Coaches that weren't available before become available. I think we should call it what it is and say, as we did at the end of last season, cup win or not, he's just a placeholder for the moment. But I guess the question is, how much does that damage the players there who need to progress? Yeah, and I just wonder with Erik ten Hag, who, you look at the work he did before Manchester United, he's a decent manager. He's not. He is, but there is a but here. Cool. In the last 6 months at Ajax, he got a little bit found out. Yeah. And let's be clear: when he was at Ajax for the last couple of years, he had much better players than anyone else in the division. Okay. It's not like a United situation. And I was just trying to be nice, Andy. All I was trying to do. Yeah, let's be realistic. Let's not be nice. Okay, fine. That last 6 months at Ajax, his defensive planning started to fall apart, and he couldn't really. He didn't have an answer to it. Now, the other thing that he talked about in the back end of Ajax was that he missed having Mark Overmars to run things for him on a sporting level. Look, they had to get rid of Overmars for very well known reasons, but he's just walked into a situation at Manchester United where there's not been that sort of guidance and help that he's needed upstairs, so he's had to spread himself too thinly. So it's not all his fault. I think we've seen that have an effect on his temperament and the way he behaves as well, but because Andy, he's so under pressure. What I wanted to say was that I'm genuinely feeling a bit sorry for the guy now, and actually. It's almost a case of he needs to be put out of his misery with regards to managing Manchester United, because he's not going to walk away. I think no managers do that nowadays because of
the payout they'll get if they get sacked and so on. And that makes sense, and I totally get that. But I think, though, that when he saw Steve McClaren tonight, and he saw McClaren beaming away, do you miss Manchester United at Old Trafford? And McClaren just went, no. He's living his best life. Let's be honest with you. McClaren, he got that FA Cup winners medal and went, thanks very much, boys. Cashing the chips in. So long, suckers. Off I go. And Ten Hag must be looking at him thinking, God, that's a lovely old job.
Do you want an assistant?
Steve, can I be your assistant this time?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Ten Hag said, I miss him every morning at breakfast. And Steve McClaren said, we never used to share breakfast, you dirty so-and-so. No, he didn't say that. So, yes, it's probably early days for Ten Hag to maybe think about a job in the Caribbean, but who knows, Eric? Use Steve McClaren as your inspiration, as we all have done, Andy, over the years.
Thanks for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're feeling extra generous, why don't you like this video? Why don't you like this video?